Greedy Gryphon Grasps at Generosity by Deergenerate. Learning how to be decent. Gallus sat at the table as his friends stood in front of him. More specifically, Sandbar and Ocellus in the center of his view, while Yona, Silverstream and Smolder stood off to the side. Between the changeling and the pony was a large chalkboard with crudely drawn images of a griffin holding a bag of bits, then the griffin giving it to a pony, and finally both the griffin and the pony smiling happily while embraced in a hug. So, can you explain again why the griffin is happy? Gallus asked loudly. A groan of annoyance emanated from the throats of every one of his friends. Ocellus merely clasped her face in her hoofs as Sandbar sat down and slapped himself in the face. The griffin is happy because he made the pony happy with the money, Sandbar said. Oh, now I see, Gallus said with a grin. The others found themselves getting a tad bit hopeful, the 5 of them smiling and leaning in to see if he would finally be correct and their torture would end. He's loaning the pony the money so he pays him back double, Gallus said, rising out of his chair and pointing at the board. No! The others shouted back as Gallus was forced to sit back down by the volume of their groans of exasperation. That is the opposite of generosity, Ocellus said as she walked up to Gallus and set her hoofs on his desk. Why is generosity so hard for you? Gallus crossed his arms over his chest and huffed. Not as hard as honesty was for you, he muttered quietly. What was that? Ocellus asked with a deep frown. Nothing, Gallus replied nervously, spreading his arms in the air. The universal sign of surrender. Silverstream walked up to the two and put a claw on each of their shoulders. Guys, I just think I came up with a perfect idea, she squeaked. Gallus felt himself tense up. This wasn't going to be fun. Gallus's desk had been moved off to the side of the room, leaving the center of the room empty and barren, aside from the griffin himself, and Yona. The others had retreated off to the side, while Silverstream directed the exercise. Gallus clutched a bag of bits the others had given him to his chest nervously. He didn't like this, although the bag provided him much comfort. A bag of coins to a griffin is like a teddy bear to a pony. So very comforting. Okay, Gallus, you can see in this scenario that Yona is short on bits and needs a bag of them in order to get something, Silverstream said as she turned over to Yona, who was just standing there, staring at her. Silverstream cleared her throat. Oh, right, Yona said. Yak said. Yak want to buy big Jovida phone, but can't because not have money. Yaks were great at many things, but acting was not one. Maybe we should have had Ocellus play the friend in need, Smolder grumbled from the side. You have a bag of money, Gallus, Silverstream said, ignoring what Smolder had said. So what do you do with it? Gallus was quiet for a couple of minutes as he held onto the bag, his eyes darting from it to Yona several times. I keep it? Silverstream landed in front of him, clearly not turned off by the response. No, you give it to her. She reached for the bag in Gallus's clutches, but was shocked when the griffin suddenly jumped away from her and crouched down, the bag held firmly in his grasp. The griffin's voice dropped several octaves as he hissed darkly. No! You gave this to me! It's mine now! Silverstream quickly backed off. Okay, she said as she got up into the air. Wait! Smolder said as she suddenly rushed into the center of the room and looked at Gallus. Gallus rose up from his defensive position and stared at her. Yeah? You know how good you felt when you were given those bits? Smolder asked. Yeah? Gallus answered, not knowing where the dragon was going with this. Well, others feel like that when you give them stuff too, Smolder explained as she looked at the griffin. Gallus's eyes widened. Oh! He shouted as it suddenly clicked in his head. So if I give things to people, they will feel good, and when they feel good, I feel good too. Gallus said with a smile crossing his beak. The Gryphon sat back on his haunches and brought his claws to his face. It all makes sense now. Smolder and the others found themselves uncontrollably grinning as Gallus figured things out, even if it was a bit of a cop-out, and closed in on him. Gallus smiled as he suddenly reached his hand out and gave the bag to Smolder. Here, Gallus said with a smile as he tapped into his generosity. Smolder merely looked down at the bag for a minute as the others dragged Gallus into a hug. Nothing happened for a couple minutes as they all suddenly turned their hands to Smolder. Smolder said nothing, until her eyes flashed and a long forked tongue emerged from her mouth. Mine! She hissed. Is Dragon okay? Yona asked the orange dragoness. A loud roar echoed throughout the town of Ponyville as an orange dragon rampaged through the streets. Princess Twilight, Starlight Glimmer, and the rest of the elements desperately rushed around the city, trying to minimize damage and bring the dragon back under control. 5 of the 6 students stood in the ruins of their study room and stared through a hole in the ceiling at the horrible destruction as it unfolded. Buildings being thrown about like toys, and the occasional cart of baked goods being casually thrown over the horizon. Gallus turned to the other 4, nothing but contempt on his face, a deep frown etched in his features. I don't think generosity is all it's cracked up to be.
We here at Pony&Wolf Productions thank these amazing patrons of ours for their monthly support, without which all of this would not be possible. We sincerely appreciate it, and every dollar helps, is needed, and will be used to keep us going to produce audiobooks for your continued enjoyment. It is, now more than ever, important that you support your favorite creators if possible, due to YouTube changing in a way that is not very friendly to content creators. Especially small content creators, like us. In recent months, the names you see on screen have enabled Midnight and Visual Pony to keep going and only having to sell off part of their belongings to not end up on the street. As an incentive for everyone, Visual Pony has broken a vow and has promised to read and record Fallout Equestria, Murky number 7, should the monthly support reach $1,500. To be clear, this is the absolute minimum amount needed to keep the apartment and all bills paid without starving, while a production of this size is ongoing. The estimated time for this production would be 3 to 4 years, but people already said that Project Horizons was impossible to do, right? And now look who did it, so with Pony&Wolf, you know we can finish the job. For further information on how to support us, please have a look at the description of this video, as there are also other ways, like our merch store. Sincerely and forever yours, your Pony&Wolf team.
you.